Hi, I'm Mark. Welcome back to Foothill Paint and Fabrication. Well, we're back on the 65 Chevelle. Today we're going to be putting the evaporator the evaporator box, the control box with the blower and everything off the Vintage Air system. We're going to be doing a little bit different than Vintage Air wants you to do it, where I'm going to try to get it over towards the center and up a little higher to try to hide it the best we can. Because you guys know the blower kind of hangs down, it's kind of unsightly. So I'd like to try to get that up and over as much as possible. So let's just jump in here and take a look what I got going on so far. Okay, I got the evaporator box mocked up in here. I just got it sitting on the cardboard box and every block I got laying around here. And so I have it, Vintage Air wants you to use the two of the original bolts from the heater cover, and that puts it this way towards the passenger side 2 inches more. So I've got it pushed over 2 inches farther, and this windshield wiper cowl right here kind of slopes down. So the farther you go that way, the higher up you can go, and the more you can hide this thing. So I've got it 2 inches that way and at least an inch higher, so that's good. But I'd like to go a little bit higher. But if you look down inside there, right there is, I think that's the expansion tube, and that's the only thing that's going to be hitting. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to put a little recess right there. I've already marked underneath there. So I'm going to pull that out and try to put a little bump in there up, and then that'll give me a little more wiggle room, because obviously we don't want that rubbing on the cowl, but it's going to allow me to go up a little bit higher, get the clearance I need, and then get this evaporator box hidden a little bit better. I'd like to keep going towards the center and go up, but we start running into clearance issues in the center there with the stereo and the vents and everything else. So that's about as far towards the center as I can go. So now we're going to try to go up a little bit higher, and then we'll work on some studs to weld to the firewall. They want you to use through bolts. I'd rather not have bolts going through the firewall. I'd rather have it look a little cleaner. So we're going to make up some little stud bolts to tack onto the firewall to attach this thing. So let me pull this out, get a little dent in there, and then we'll mock it back up and see where we're going to land and mark the locations. Okay, let's see if we can get a nice little dimple in there. Just got my Harbor Freight nylon hammer here. I think I can reach to the glove box opening. All right, that's looking pretty nice. Got at least a 1/2 inch dimple right there. That's going to work out well, so we can just kind of get that box up in there a little bit higher and not worry about that little tube rubbing. All right, let's see about getting that thing fitted. Okay, we got our clearance we needed. There's a little dimple up in there, and I've got the location marked. The box is level, just like they want it. We're going to reuse their bracket. Fits over perfect. It's just over that way a little bit more, but the angle, everything stayed the same. And I've got it marked up underneath there. So we're going to pull this off and weld a couple of studs to the firewall, actually 3 studs. And then that way we can just slide that on, get the nuts on. It's not going to be easy to reach back there to put them on, but I think it's worth it. So let me drag this box out of here, and we're going to get these studs welded on. Okay, I got the little studs made up. This is like 14 gauge. I took a 1/4 20 bolt, cut the head off, and I drilled all the way through, chamfered the back side so I get full penetration, and just welded that right there like that. So if you see close, I got 100% penetration. It actually came through to the thread side a little bit. So what we're going to do, we got 3 of these. So what we're going to do is take this plate and put these on, and then hold this up there right where I've got it marked with a Sharpie, and we're going to tack these in place, and then pull this away and get these welded on. So this will be more than strong enough. Through bolts are strong, but this is a vertical load on here. It's not like it's going to be pulling away. So, and I'm confident that this will work. I've done this type of thing before, so it's no problem at all. So there they are right there. So we're going to push this up against the firewall and get some magnets or something on there to hold it in place. And then we'll get up here and tack these on the edges where they're showing through. Just a little bit bigger than the plate here, so I can just get a tack on there. And then we'll pull it away, and then we'll get several good tacks on there all the way around. Make sure it's nice and smooth, and then we can we can put this back on the evaporator box, and then simply slide this right over the bolts, the studs, and put the lock washers and nuts on there, and then tighten it up, and it'll be secure on that side. Now the upper one, we're going to do something similar as well with another one that I made for that spot too. So let me get this up in there, clamped up in there, and we'll get this welded on. Okay, let's get this welded up in here, and then we can pull that away and weld it up all the way. All right, that should do it. Let me get that down, and then we can get it welded up. All right, let's get some solid tacks on here. Ouch. Fire! Don't have the towel laying right where you're welding. All right, takes care of that. Okay, I got them all welded in. Got that one up there. I did a double plate. They want 2 screws to go into the windshield wiper cowl area, but I didn't want to do that, so I made up a couple of studs on a plate and got it welded on. Got the one down back there and the one right there. I went ahead and put some rust encapsulator on all this. There was some rust up underneath here, and that plate I welded on for the firewall was a little rusty. So I got all that done. Now we're going to stick some insulation on here and get that thing mounted. Okay, got some foil foam insulation here, sound deadening and insulation. So we're just going to kind of get this up in here. I've already poked the holes for the studs, so I should be able to locate this no problem. It's pretty sticky stuff, so you kind of want to get it stuck and then peel it back as you go. So let's see if I can get this up in here without making a mess. Just like that. Let's grab the evaporator and see how she fits. Okay, I think I've got everything. Let's get it on up in here. Oh, there we go. All right, I got both of those. Put this plate on. Just like that. These mounting plate bolts in the box. Okay, there we go. Let me bring you in close. We'll take a look at it. Okay, got it all mounted. It's got the nuts on the studs right there on the mounting plate, and it's attached in the front here. It's just sitting on the studs in the back. I don't know if you guys can see that stud way back inside there. I can see it, and I'm sure I can get my hand in there and get a nut on that stud and lock washer. And then the one down here too, I still need to put a nut on. But this box evaporator is not going to stay in here. I still have to insulate up in here. We've got to cut some holes for hoses or run hoses. We've got to do a lot of other stuff. So, but it fits. We're ready to go. I'm going to go ahead and put it back in the bag, put it back in the box for safekeeping, and then we're going to move on to the next steps for this thing. Okay, got everything insulated. Got the windshield wiper cowl, got the firewall. Went ahead and did all the way across, all the way to the top. So we're good to go on insulation. So let me bring you in close and I'll show you what I did for the hoses. Okay, Vintage Air wants you to take your fresh air vent out and then replace it with this piece here to run the hoses through. And I really didn't want to do that. Once you do that, that's out, and then they want you to cut a kind of a square or notch out of your kick panel, and the hoses are right here. And I really didn't want to do that, so I wanted to move the hoses up out of view and not have the fresh air vent get deleted. So what I did was just took 1.25 inch hole saw, and I hole sawed 4 holes. There's 3 pretty much on the flat here and 1 up above. So that worked out really well. You can see some sealer on here. What I did was, to make sure they don't leak at all, I took some weather strip adhesive and I put it around the hole on both sides. Then I popped the grommet in they supply, and then I put the nozzle from the adhesive down inside there and squirted on the lip, and then took my finger around the back side. So these are glued in. They are not going to leak. No, there's no way they're going to leak. Then I drilled the hole for the grommet to run the wires for the heater control valve, and so that's run as well. So that's what I did on that, and I think it's a better solution. It's a little bit more work, not much. I think it took me 20 minutes to get all those holes cut, and those things glued in. It probably took me 40 minutes for the whole thing. So I think it's well worth it. And the hoses are going to be up here, and the fresh air vent goes back in, and we don't have to cut up the kick panel. So you may want to consider doing that. I don't see any downside to it. It's on the curve, and water does run through here from the windshield wiper vent of cowling. But it's no more than would have run over this piece here. So I don't see any downside to doing it. So I think it's a good solution to retain all your factory stuff. Okay, one of the last things I needed to do was hole saw for the evaporator condensate line. It's right here. They just want you to measure over level and then go down 1 inch to make sure the tube has a little bit of flow to it. And that's about it. So let's get this thing hung up in there and see how we did. Okay, let me get a nut on here so don't come crashing down on me. And one right here. All right, let me bring you in close and we'll take a look at it. Okay, we got it all installed. It's looking really good. I will push it up higher when I tighten all the nuts up, so it will be a little bit higher, not much. So we got room to get the hoses through right over there. The little orifice tube or whatever it is clear back there. And if you notice right here, that's the defroster tube right there, right where that bracket is. And it just splits the difference right there between the two of them. So that's working out really good. We've got clearance back there for the little stepper motors. And down here, it looks pretty good. I'd like to get it higher, but there's only so much room. You can't push it any higher. So all in all, I'm really happy. Okay, that just about wraps up this day's project. What have you guys been working on? Send me those pics. I'd love to see what's going on in your life, what you're working on. Let's get out in that garage, driveway, carport, street, whatever you got to do and get to work on that project so we can get them on the road instead of working on them every day. Well, Jake was a little bit of help today, but we got the evaporator box in real nice, got it up higher and over a little bit, and got the hoses, grommets in and everything's insulated. So we're ready to move on to the next steps on this thing. Thanks for joining me here at Foothill Paint and Fabrication. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button if you haven't already, and mash that bell icon so you get notifications every time I release a new video. We'll see you on the next one.